On mine, I'm always here.
No, the kid, oh, that was my second.
And who do we have on the phone lines? Jeremy. Was Jeremy on the phone lines? Jeremy Armour, are you on the phone lines?
No, it's on.
Unmute, Jeremy.
It's the top.
We'll find out in a moment. We do roll call. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting, February the 11th, 2015. And I'd like us all to rise for the singing of Old Canada. Switch over anything tonight. Perfect. I'll ask Director Patterson to do a roll call, please.
Trustee Armour,
Here.
First Vice Chair Parker,
Present.
Trustee Cram,
Present.
Trustee Garrow,
Present.
Trustee McPherson Bill,
Present.
Trustee Wendy McPherson,
Present.
Trustee McAllister,
Present.
Second Vice Chair McDonald,
Present.
Chair McMillan,
Present.
Trustee Richards,
Present.
Trustee Swan,
Present.
Student Trustee Sheila Cruz.
Present.
Thank you very much. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items, 3.02, 3.3, February the 11th, 2015, moved by Trustee Garrow, seconded by Trustee Richards. Cast your votes, please.
I'm logging in again.
Okay, you're in favor? Trustee Armour, I assume you're in favor?
I am.
Thank you very much. That carries. Are there any conflict of interest? Seeing there are none. I need a motion that the Upper Canada District School Board move into Committee of the Whole for discussion on agenda items 5.02 to 7.02, February 11th, 2015. Moved by Trustee Swan, seconded by Trustee Karkner. Cast your votes, please. And that carries. Thank you very much. Mr. Armour, I assume you're good?
Yeah, I am.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Okay, our first delegation presentation that we have is from Suzanne Rivard, Health Promotion Specialist with the Upper Canada School Traveling Planning Team. I've had the pleasure of working with Suzanne in my role as trustee on the Parent Involvement Committee for the last few years, so I can tell you I'm looking forward to this presentation. So Suzanne, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair McMillan, Director Patterson, trustee and senior staff. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you tonight on the Parent Involvement Committee. So this is one definition of parent engagement that our group came to a conclusion that we would like to work towards as a Parent Involvement Committee. And we would really like to stress that we want to develop those lasting and meaningful relationships between schools and families. These are some of the ministry directions that the Parent Involvement Committee is responsible for. We see ourselves as having the opportunity to do more and connect on a more personal level with parents. In 2013, the Parent Involvement Committee held a strategic planning event where we invited school councils to join us in developing the goals that PIC would work towards. At this point in time, we decided to work on mental well-being and resiliency, a pro-grant library, that's parents reaching out grants, effective school councils, social media, and cybersecurity. At that time, it was identified that we would choose 2 directions to focus on, and we have chosen the first 2, mental well-being and resiliency, and the pro-grant library. So I personally believe that while we all grow and become adults, we continue to carry the child we were in our heart, with all of our accomplishments and disappointments. Our childhood shapes who we are today, giving us the skills, assets, and resiliency to meet daily life challenges. We have an opportunity, and dare I say a responsibility, to show that we are providing a positive life experience for our students, staff, parents, and community, and PIC would like to be part of that. By building safe, healthy, and supportive school environments that focus on an asset-based development approach, we'll be creating healthy school communities. I'm very proud of the PIC committee for embracing this concept and wanting to move forward with it, and expressing the desire to work with senior staff, building on the capacity that is already in place in Upper Canada District School Board. The 2 campaigns that were brought forward to us by senior staff were the We All Belong and See My Voice, and they're both excellent campaigns that address mental well-being, equity, and inclusion, and these fit nicely with the alignment of Parent Involvement Committee goals. We see the natural connection between these campaigns and the direction PIC would like to take. At the PIC table, we discussed in length how we would like to tackle the elephant in the room, that topic of conversation that we all know that exists, but no one really ever wants to identify or discuss. We recognize that there are many issues around the social determinants of health that are priorities and that coexist at the same time. But at this time, we have prioritized mental health and well-being. By building on the ministry's foundations for a healthy school framework, we will open opportunities to address these elephants. The Foundations for a Healthy School goal emphasizes the need to focus not just on academic success, but also on the whole child and student, their cognitive, emotional, social, and physical development. We see where this can only strengthen the opportunities to build parent and community engagement within the whole child approach. So I liked this because it can be very challenging for parents to come into a school and have to meet with their child's teacher to discuss their behavior and their educational progress. And it always starts a nice conversation when you hear something positive about your child. So in working towards the goal of the whole child and health and well-being, it offers a great opportunity to strengthen not only the child, but the whole family unit, which in turn only strengthens everyone involved. One definition of a whole family unit goes beyond what is the traditional parent and child relationship, but is comprised of all people who care for the child. For example, parents, grandparents, teachers, mentors, coaches, and etc. This concept aligns with the developmental assets work created by the Search Institute, and this is where PIC would like to put our emphasis on working with this concept. Everyone flourishes with a positive environment that encourages, mentors, cares, and supports. PIC is hopeful that we can embed the developmental assets into the process as we work towards removing stigma around mental health and well-being. Parents are one of the greatest assets that a school system has in place, and we have an opportunity to build on that and engage them in a new, exciting way. We would encourage us all to strive towards building on that asset, looking beyond what parents traditionally do in a school setting. There is no one who wants their child to be happy and healthy more than a parent. Let's work with them to achieve that. I liked this quote by Mario Cuomo because it states, "Even if they're not my children, perhaps they are or perhaps they're not, but we should all love them." And that's exactly what children need, is to know that they're loved by everyone who comes into their life. So I threw this picture in as the last slide. It just resonates with me. There's something amazing about this picture of this young boy. And that is that he obviously has a life that is nurtured. He's able to connect with nature, and he grows from there. By building strength, capacity, and communications between parents and schools, we are adding another layer of support for our children, which results in safe, happy, and healthy school communities. It gives another layer of strength to a parent knowing that they're sending their child off to a system that not just will educate, but encourage their growth and development. Thank you very much for your commitment to the overall health and well-being of each individual that is part of your family. And thank you for supporting the Parent Involvement Committee's work to build on that.
Thank you, Suzanne. I want you to stay there for a second because I'm reconsidered of something that I had mentioned to some of the trustees. The hard work and dedication that your committee and the folks that are on that committee and the job they have done on behalf of the kids in this board, I think deserves a huge acknowledgement from all of us. But I think it would not be fair if I did not allow some of the trustees to ask some questions because one of the, I know from my own experience on this, one of the issues was trying to get as much involvement as we can from our parents. And so trustees, if you have questions that you would like to ask Suzanne in terms of, a more understanding of what parent involvement committee is all about, where they're meeting, how, can anyone come along, any of those kind of questions, feel free right now through me to ask those questions. So does anyone have any questions concerning Suzanne and the PIC committee? Trustee Wendy McPherson.
Thank you, through you, Chair. On one of the slides here, it says to share effective practices to help engage parents in their children's learning. Can you give me an example so that I could talk to parents positively about your committee and telling them what exactly they could obtain from going to the committee?
Sure, through you, Chair. One of the things that we've been really working on and is new this year is that we're taking our Parent Involvement Committee meetings around the board to try and reach out and gain more parent access to those committees. We want to strive in the fact that we're that parent voice where we truly can relate to any challenges that they're facing. We might not have the answers right away, but we will support and help build that communication system and in connection of who to contact if that be a challenge. I think the strength is that it's open and accessible to absolutely anyone and everyone within the school board district, and we encourage their participation. No number is the wrong number, and everyone's thoughts and ideas are always welcome and encouraged to be brought forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Trustee Cram.
Through you, Chair. One of their goals was to work with school councils. Can you give me any idea of the kind of outreach you are using to school councils? Because I know at one of the school councils I was at, they asked, what is the parent involvement council?
Yes, through you, Chair. That has been one of our greatest challenges, is how to communicate effectively to school councils. It's it's not unknown that the geographic region of the board is a challenge to work with. So the approach that I did mention before, in that we're trying to go to each region within the school board. So we're taking our meetings to them instead of expecting parents to come and travel to our meetings. We're hoping that that really opens the door and builds awareness and communication for the Parent Involvement Committee. We are still striving to work towards some of those common goals and how we can assist school councils best. So that's one of the things that we're hoping to discover by going out to school councils this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee McAllister.
Thank you, Suzanne. Could you, I mentioned in your first goal, which is mental well-being and resiliency. Can you elaborate a little bit on how you are working with the board's Living Well Committee to promote both your goals and theirs?
Through you, Chair. So the exciting thing is that the Parent Involvement Committee had looked at a few different mental health initiatives at first. And then through discussions with senior staff, it was made aware to us that the excellent work that has already been done both for staff and students. And we said, well, how do we engage the parent voice to communicate and build that communication out again so that we're getting that consistent message always coming home to and out through to the community about what great things are happening here. So I was invited to attend the Living Well Committee meeting, which was an awesome opportunity, and there was shared the We All Belong and the See My Voice campaign. And what excites me especially about the See My Voice is that it is the student perspective, and I think that's the strong connection that we need to work on with parents, is that we don't always have to put parents and students in the same room, but we need to be having some similar conversations so that we're all aware of what's happening and how we move forward and reduce stigma and where services are available. And I think by aligning these opportunities and having it come from the parent voice, it changes the conversation from parent to parent instead of from the school board or a teacher to a parent. It's a different approach. It brings it down to a comfortable level for many people. And I think it allows us to really grow that reach.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Swan.
Through you, Chair, is it the meetings available on the board website, or how do we know when the meetings are held in our different regions?
Through you, Chair?
Mm-hmm.
PIC meetings? Yes. So we have a fledgling Facebook page for the PIC, and we do post the meetings there. I believe they're put on the website as well. So it's, again, that's one of the things that we need to work on, is that communication and how do we get that out effectively. So our next meeting, for instance, will be held in Russell on March 3rd. So we're going to be sending out some hold the date notices and getting that more widely promoted as well to encourage as much participation as we can in that region.
Dave Kuhn, did you want to add?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, just to add to that, we will be sending out a invitation to all school councils with the date of our next meeting and making a general invitation. So we've asked principals to share that with all their school councils.
Okay. Mr. Cartner, and that'll be the last question, and we're going to move on. But
Just a request of Superintendent Coombs.
Certainly.
That trustees be copied on that, please.
Certainly, thank you.
Suzanne, I alluded, I was in the committee when there was only Trevor and Barb and Linda and Superintendent Linda Lumsden, and we struggled really to get it off the ground. And since you've come along and the hard work you put into it, it has grown. You are a huge supporter of Upper Canada School Board, I know that. I also it would not be right if I did not mention Burva, who is, works very hard out in Oxford Mills, and works with Superintendent Coombs and the hard work she does behind the scenes. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, thank you so much for all the hard work you're putting into this, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
So I'll receive the presentation without any further debate or comment.
Thank you for letting us doing questions, Chair.
Okay, moving on. We're going to be having two of our schools do a presentation to us. The first school will be Morrisburg Public School, and I'm going to turn this over to Superintendent Tim Mills.
Thank you very much, Chair, through you. On behalf of the trustees and senior team, I'd like to welcome Principal Bev Bethune to the table. Come on up, Bev. Bev's the principal at Morrisburg Public School. I've had an opportunity to visit the school a few times. And Bev, I want to thank you for your leadership at the school, and it's quite evident that you've developed a real culture of care with your staff, and it's evident with the students when I see them in the halls too. I also want to welcome Coordinating Administrative Principal Cap Don Lewis from the Dundas family. So, go ahead, Bev.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much for having me here this evening. It's a privilege to present my school. I'm very proud of it. Morrisburg Public, to give you my perspective, promotes a caring environment by providing students with a home away from home atmosphere. We try to support the skill development of the total child, cognitive, social, emotional, and physical. As I reflect, I realize that we need to celebrate at our school the exciting school culture that has evolved at Morrisburg Public. Staff are truly functioning collaboratively as a team that is focused on the well-being as well as the academic achievements of all of our children. Demographically, as you can see, we're a K-6 school with regular French programming. 27% of our students have IEPs, and at the moment that's growing. We've had a few more added in the month of December in the last couple of weeks as well. We're a feeder school for Seaway District High School. Speech and language support, and this is an important piece of data. 17% of our grade 1 to 6 students at Morrisburg Public receive weekly speech and language support. 80% of those kids, those students requiring speech and language are in the primary division, and the majority of that support is language support, predominantly language support, rather than speech articulation. We go right to the heart of it. Our grade 3 EQAO results are nowhere where they should be. As you look across, there doesn't seem to be much of a trend. We're low in reading, writing, and math. We move on to our grade 6. You see where our EQAO results consistently show that over time our students improve significantly from grade 3 to grade 6. You look at our reading, 71%, writing, 71%. We're still low in math, as is the whole province. We look at the 3-year composite. As you can see, the primary reading and writing has remained consistently low over the 3 years, and we have dropped in math. At the junior end, all areas have increased significantly. You look at reading, we've gone up 12%. You look at writing, we've gone up 16%. And you look at math, and we've gone up 11%. When we look at the grade 3 to 6 cohort tracking, the students who did not meet the standard in grade 3 reading met it in grade 6, and that's 29%. That's significant, that piece of data. When you look at the writing, they've gone up 24% to meet the standards as compared to the grade 3, and when you look at math, they've gone up 6%. The growth from grade 3 to 6 indicates that our children are learning it, but it just takes a bit longer. The data supports our focus on early language intervention. We do not see a dramatic increase in math between the 2 grades, but math scores have decreased across the province, and we are putting some strategies in for math. We'll get into that after. Okay. When we look at the communication at Morrisburg Public, teachers use a variety of technology to help students to succeed. Teachers and staff use a variety of communication tools as listed on the screen. You can read them all. We have a very positive, active Facebook page, Twitter account, classroom newsletters. I think our most effective means of communication is our face-to-face. Our staff, EAs, teachers, myself, when I'm available, we go to the walker door, we meet the parents. If there's an issue, if there's something good, news story, we talk to the parents and say goodbye to the children. And I think that's really unique with Morrisburg Public. Technology. The teachers use a wide variety of technology to help the students succeed. We have smart boards in every classroom. We have a large number of iPads, iPods, iPad minis supporting all the learning. We use these to engage the student in the learning, as well as the teachers use these to record students as they learn or as they participate in their lessons, so that they can reflect later, see where the students are at and what needs to be done to move them forward. We are also connecting with community partners to engage students in their learning. As you can see, we have quite a list of community partners coming in with the Creating the Pathways initiative. This provides our students with some hands-on opportunity, as well as it introduces them to what's out there in the community and places beyond Morrisburg. We are developing a music and arts room at the moment. We have 30 ukuleles. We have 5 guitars and a piano. We're using this to provide students with other avenues to demonstrate their learning. Students and teachers have also had opportunities to learn how to play the ukulele. So we're trying to do some capacity building within the staff, and I must admit, I need to practice. To support the learning, the resources to support an engaging learning environment, there's quite a list there. I'm really proud of the right-hand corner picture at the bottom. That's our Learning Commons area. We rejuvenated the whole room. We've painted and put up decals. We have a couch. We have lighting. It's a home away from home for the kids to go sit and read, and this supports our literacy program. We also have a sensory room. Our sensory room is for students with sensory overload and students who need breaks to maintain focus. So an area that EAs or whoever can take the staff, take the kids to, not the staff, but the kids to. Maybe some days the staff. I kind of get off topic there, don't I? Take the kids to, and they can let off some steam and support their sensory needs. We're working on our outdoor learning environment. We're looking at our kindergarten yard as well as our junior yard. We have teachers that are interested in the composting and having some outdoor classroom events for them as well, some areas. We're starting a choir at recess, and we're looking at going possibly to the Kinsman Music Festival. We're working on it, and so are the kids. We also have a Ready for Summer program through the Leger Center and the Girls and Boys Club of Cornwall, and this is a really great bonus for the kids in Morrisburg in the summertime. I would like to highlight the following educational programs. We ran last year and still running an Empower Reading program, so it's our second year. A couple of the students that were in it last year have moved on to Seaway, and it's been a really nice transition for them because Seaway runs the same program. Some of them had to wait a few weeks because they were ahead, but they did eventually get into the program and follow through with that. One of our students that we have went up 11 reading levels because of that program. Math focus groups, we have 2 junior teachers, and I've also sent one of my primary teachers to the Math Hub. And what our focus is, we're promoting math across all of the divisions within the school. The key strategies that we are using across the school are number strings, flexibility and or fluency of numbers. So we have the number of the day, and we add or subtract different numbers, and so the kids can become flexible with numbers. We use a lot, because of the language issues in the school, we use a lot of math talk or language comprehension, because that's an area that we need to work heavily on so that they understand what our expectations are from the kids. And we do a math problem all the week. We started calling it Drop Everything and Do Math, so we try and do one math problem of the week to engage the kids in math. Our primary team is doing a reading fluency focus. We're basically looking at reading through fluency through the lens of assessment and evaluation. We've identified 6 students in grade 1 and 6 students in grade 2 who are struggling readers. We have used the iPads to record them reading. We've taken in their writing journals and pieces of evidence. We've sat as a team. We have a program person working with us as well. So the teachers, myself, the LRC, and the program person, we look at all the data and all the evidence, and we've come up with strategies on how we're going to support these kids to move them along with reading. Our last meeting we had last week, we documented an average of 2 reading levels jump since we started working daily with these students. And also what the teachers have noticed, and I don't have the data to prove it, but they say they are becoming a little more independent with the writing because of confidence and self-esteem. So they're writing more independently and not asking for as much support. That's what they feel. Next. Okay, self-regulation is, when we look at more educational programs, is an area of concern across our school population. We have implemented the zones of regulation in our grade 5-6 classroom, and we're now in the process of promoting it with our kindergarten students. We hope to make eventually this program utilized across all grade levels to become a common language in the school. We also have a before and after school reading program. Presently, we have 28 students enrolled in this. So they have 2 20-minute sessions either before or after school with EAs. It's directed by the teachers, so that gives them a little more literacy support and some one-on-one work, and that helps with the student self-esteem as well. We also have a response to intervention approach that demonstrates our commitment to using data to plan for individual student learning. Music and art, we're supporting the development of that, as I said earlier. Music and art skills, choir, ukulele, guitar lessons, art club. These skills can be transferred into the classroom and can be used to demonstrate student learning. Stay on Course is for community, is a partnership with OPP with Crime Stoppers. Constable Copeland comes into the school, takes our grade 6 students golfing. We have 10 mentors within the community that go to the Morrisburg Golf Club and golf with the students. They teach the students golf etiquette and social skills and how to play golf. And the students, it's a win-win situation because the students teach the mentors social media with their mini iPads. They go with a set of mini iPads to the golf course. So they all love it. And what we found from this is some of those mentors have come in and helped us with EQ, AO scribing, and support for the school. It's a nice community support for the school. The OPP VIP program and the restorative circles, these are the areas where we build skill development with the kids in terms of problem solving, conflict resolution, and positive choices and internet safety. We also run a breakfast program that's quite popular. We feed all the schools breakfast we feed all the kids breakfast every Friday morning, as well as those that need it during the week. Our character always traits are supported via, we have a Hartford seniors residents next door. The grade 5-6 classes go over there regularly, twice a month. They did biographies. They've attached themselves to a senior, each student. They've done a biography on the students, on the seniors. The students also invite the seniors over for Remembrance Day. They've also come over and taught some of our kids about war and about their recollections of war. They go over for Christmas, for Halloween, so it's quite regularly. They go over and plant the flowers, gardening in the spring, and support that. We also have an early act club, and that's a shoot-off of Interact, exactly, thank you. And they have 3 initiatives, one's school, one's community, and one's global. The community has been with the food bank in South Dundas, and they did a Scare Away Hunger for Halloween. They did the Santa Claus parade and collected food and money for the Angel Tree to buy presents for needy kids within the community. We also have the Winchester Hospital Empathy Card Program, where our kids go there at Christmas. They make cards for everybody that's in the hospital over Christmas. A group of them go and visit and hand out the cards before Christmas. Okay. Move on to our school success goals. Number 1, ensure student voice is evident in curricular and non-curricular situations so that students are actively engaged while self-directing their learning. If you see the student in the right hand, that was a lesson or a problem that she had to solve. It was on her mini iPad that she was using. That connected to the smart board. She got up to explain how she came about with her solution to the whole class. And that's the way our math focus has been going. If you look at the other picture, all of our assemblies or anything we do at this school, our leaders are the students. The teachers support the students to be the leaders. Our next goal, whoop. Uh-oh. It's gone. Up. I'll just move forward again. There we go. There we go. Develop a positive, safe school environment, restorative circles, early act, zones of regulation, and community partners are our strategies there. School success plan goal number 3, improve student achievement and public confidence in Mooresburg Public School through meaningful communication with families in the community. Those are some pictures of students being engaged in their work that's on our Facebook page, our school newsletter that goes out monthly. Some of our teachers use specific programs, Edmodo, Weebly, Dojo. Those are programs that they connect with the kids when the kids aren't at school. So the kids can connect with the teachers connect with the kids. Okay, next steps. We need to continue engage students through the arts so that they have other avenues to express their learning, zones of regulation. We need to continue our hub work to improve our math. We need to further develop our literacy team. And through this process, and in conjunction with my speech and language pathologist, we've come to the conclusion we need to do a speech and language boost program for the kindergarten primary end. We are strategizing and implementing supports to help all of our students improve in literacy. You've seen that with the Empower before and after school literacy, response to intervention data strategies, and RAS Kids. That's a program that the kids use for literacy. We are saturating our students with as many rich literacy experiences while they are in our care during the day. We have further identified by collaboration with our speech and language pathologists that we need intensive language interventions in the kindergarten and primary ends. We need to work on basic comprehension skills before moving forward with these students. We work very hard to implement strategies and programs to increase the students' performance in math and literacy, and it is impacting our results. As you can see by our results, and I'll state it again, it takes time for our kids to improve. The bottom line is they are improving.
Thank you very much, Bev. Comments or questions? Trustee Swan?
Thank you very much for your presentation. Just wondering if you could expand a bit on zones of regulations. That's not something I've heard.
Okay, Zones of Regulation is a program that takes a number of different areas in. It takes in strategies, like some kids will use a 5-point scale. What point are you at? I'm anxious right now. I'm not very anxious. 5 is high end. And they can identify where they are, the whole class. There are signs up where I'm in a red zone, I'm in a green zone, I'm in a yellow zone, I'm in a blue zone. And each zone expresses where they are emotionally at that point in time. So it gives feedback to the teacher as well as the students where these kids are at. Maybe I need to give them space, maybe I need to help them out, maybe they're just right on and we need to move forward. It also takes all the strategies, whether they need a body break, and each kid has their own strategies. They need a body break, maybe they need to count to 10, take a couple of deep breaths. There's a whole variety. It kind of encompasses the whole mental health piece in one package and supports the kid. And a common language is expected behaviors and non-expected behaviors. This, when we're going to an assembly, these are the behaviors we expect. If something doesn't happen that's unexpected, then we said, well, we didn't expect that type of behavior, you know, so you need to think about that. So that's kind of the basis of it. I could go on, but.
Thank you. Trustee Cartner?
Through you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation, and I'm curious as to you're doing a lot of work with the primary students and the reading and the writing and so on. How are you getting through to the parents about the need for them to be partners in this, if anything, at the moment? Maybe that's something you're planning to incorporate, but I just wondered, have you thought about that yet and how it's happening, if it is?
We're getting through with the before and after school literacy program. I'll be very honest, when we started that, I didn't know how many students would be involved and whether the parents would follow through. And a lot of them take buses, and parents have been picking up and taking them. I've had a lot of positive feedback from parents, how they see their kids are improving, and attendance is regular for that. Also, our Facebook pages, we're trying to promote what we're doing and how we're going about it to get parents involved. I would like to, in time, and this isn't one of my goals, and it's not listed here because it's something in the back of my mind, trying to get parents in to improve their literacy as well as support their children and do some kind of program in that area during the day as well. Just haven't gotten there yet. Thank you.
Any other comments? Trustee Craig?
Thank you for the presentation. Engaging the students through the arts, can you give me any sort of idea of a plan or how we would intend to do that?
Through you, Chair. What we do is we have one teacher that's heavily into the arts. He runs a guitar club, and he does an art program as well as another at recess and at lunchtime. We also share the teacher that's good at the ukulele and the guitar, and they swap regularly. Phys ed. The other teacher will do the phys ed class. He'll teach them the ukulele or the guitar. That's how we've started. We've just begun this year. We hope to expand it.
Supplemental. Have you made any liaison with the Upper Canada Playhouse as far as that theater arts or that kind of thing?
Through you, Chair, we haven't gotten that far yet, but that's a great suggestion.
Trustee McDonald?
Thank you. I wanted to touch upon one of your first points and one of your last points, the speech and language issue, multi-language issue. I was alarmed by it, maybe because I've never seen it reported before. Is that unique to Mooresburg in your experience, that you've seen that, or is that a common issue coming across in kindergarten levels?
I don't know if it's unique to Mooresburg, and the data that my speech and language, and it's not Upper Canada data, but she said a norm, or not a normal, 10% is what most schools run at, not necessarily Upper Canada, but that's just data in speech and language. And she said we were quite high. We do have, she does come in and spend a day a week in our school because of the needs at the moment. So our plan is if we catch the kids, we're catching them early, but if we can catch them earlier, screen them as they come into kindergarten and get the strategies in place right away, that need should lessen as time goes on.
I think to your point, the key strategy is earlier, and have you thought about or engaging the Eastern Ontario Health Unit with their Words in Bloom program to provide support if that area seems to be an issue within the health unit jurisdiction?
Through you, Chair. Yes, we have the the Words in Bloom through the health unit is for JK students. We have no data on that. We suggest parents to take kids, but they have to drive them and take them, and it's hard to keep a running record of whether they are or not taking them or not. But I think with this Language Boost program, if we have strong evidence and data to give parents, it may give them the extra initiative to take them to Words in Bloom.
I agree, but I think perhaps it might mean a conversation with the health unit. I think it's difficult if we expect parents, because the closest area for them would be the Winchester office, and I'm not sure if they have it at the Winchester office or not. But maybe we need to do some community outreach and support the school in some way, because I think your initiatives are good to try and make sure that we have the resources in place when they're with us. But we need to make sure that we can get other agencies involved as early as possible as well, because then your work can be concentrated in some other areas. So perhaps there's some things that we can do to help support that in many different ways. So it's a good initiative, and I think it's important that we don't lose sight of it.
Any other comments or questions? I want to, before you leave, I want to thank Don Lewis, who's your cat, Don, did your daughter go home, or you didn't want to expose her to this?
She's working in the library.
Smart girl. Thank you so much for being here. Principal Bethune, thank you. It's very evident to us that you care deeply for the kids, and I thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
The next on the agenda is Toniata Public School. It's got an amazing trustee. Just thought I'd throw that out. I will there's lots of supporting staff who's, it's nice when you have the microphone, isn't it? I'm going to introduce all the supporting staff at the end because I know you've got some wonderful support here with you. So I'm going to turn this over to Superintendent Dave.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know how I'm going to top that. So the school, with the amazing trustee, also has a pretty good staff and a very good principal. I was encouraged to see in our last presentation the music and the ukulele program. I think that's very exciting, and we're keeping with a bit of a music theme. Tonight I am very pleased to introduce Suzanne Morrison. Also her cap, Marnie Lindsay, is here. Thank you for being here. And her supporting cast, and very excited to hear more about this great school just a couple of kilometers down the road. Suzanne?
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here to share. As I know the time is short, you're just going to get a snippet of how wonderful the school is. So I shall begin. We are a school of choice. We are the second largest school in Brockville, and with 231 students, about 45% of our population is not in our catchment area. They are coming to Toniata, and after my presentation, I think you'll understand why. We have a regular French program, and we have an amazing music program as well that I will share. Getting right to the meat of it, I want to focus on the green circles. So our grade 3s and 6s are tracking very well for the grade 10 literacy test. The red circle is a concern of ours, and it's something I'm going to address. That's our math concerns that the province, as you've already heard, share. Our grade 3 results then indicate the same issue with our math of last year. And keeping in that, there's the grade 6 concerns. So with that being said, our first school success plan goal is to improve students' understanding of math. What we observed was with our EQAO data, as well as the student behavior, what we used to have was an hour-long math class. And it was quite evident that kids were checking out physically and mentally. They would leave, they would go get a drink, they would go to the washroom. Sometimes they would come to the office because they were ill. And we just saw that we needed to do something different. So we now do math twice a day, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon. Big focus on problem solving, and we also try to have the kids be able to articulate their reasonableness when they're answering things, so that they get a better idea of that they're capable of doing the skills, and if they walk it through and take some time, they can most likely check and say, oh, that wasn't reasonable. Yeah, I've done something wrong. We also focus the very first few months of the school on the skills, the basic skills, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, and being able to be comfortable with numbers. So that, for example, when they do the measurement unit, kids already understand what the power of 10 looks like and are able to multiply and divide with 10 easily to convert from millimeters to centimeters and meters. The bottom right-hand template, you can't see the actual scribing of that, but this is a junior template that we've come up with to try and understand where kids are breaking down in their understanding of solving a math problem. So like a reading record, this is a math comprehension tool that we're using. Second area of concern. Again, if you look at the circles, our grade 3 girls in reading and writing, we're very, very proud of that. We're very concerned with what our boys are showing us. And so that came up with our second goal, and then that is, how do we continue to build on our culture of curiosity to improve student achievement? So with our FDK models, you can see that these young boys are keen to write. The top left picture, within the second week of September, they had come and written me a letter requesting little soccer nets and balls on the schoolyard. They brought that letter to me on a Tuesday. They proceeded to ask me on Wednesday if I'd bought them, and on Thursday if I'd bought them. And on Friday, I said, I promise you, this weekend I will buy you soccer nets and a soccer ball. And that just goes to show that if we allow the kids to have a voice in what they're interested in, they are writing for us. We are looking at, I have Minute Co behind me as well as my FDK teacher, and again, focusing on getting kids engaged in what they want to do. So the latest thing that they've come up, I'm not sure if you know about these, the ology books. So this is an alienology, there's mythology, piratology, there's 10 books in all. And the idea being that you go through all the different types of writing styles. They'll be teaching them how to write letters or data information or write reports, and then the kids will choose their passion and write an ology book and publish it. So again, it's building on that curiosity and making kids want to read or write for a purpose. So here's again some more just pictures showing us how kids are engaged and what they're curious. The bottom left is a tinker table, that's kindergarten. Bottom right is a body, a model of a body with all the body parts taken out, and the kids then had to try and put them all back in. The middle picture on the bottom, we have an amazing custodian, and she took it upon herself to draw a picture one evening and leave it in the kindergarten room, and then it became a mystery. The kindergarten students were incredibly engaged. Is that an understatement? Understatement. And they wrote wanted posters. All the staff was interviewed. They did fingerprints on us. They had little magnifying glasses. They were going around and writing reports on who the mystery painter could be.
Okay, so we're having a game thing, and we struggled with it at the start, and then we figured it away. We calmed ourselves down, and then we started to build this game, and we had a lot of fun with it.
Well, we chose to do it because we had seen Kane's Arcade, and Suzanne Morrison, our principal, had showed us the video last year. And we felt it was something that was inspiring for the kids, and we thought it was something that would be really neat for them to try out and work on problem solving and working with a partner and doing something for the school as well, because they get to show it off and the kids get to come and play. So it's a day of fun, and a lot of learning happened yesterday when they were building them, and a lot of planning went into them. The kids got time to go home and figure out materials and bring things in, so it really was a big process that they got to work through.
So that was focusing on Kane's Arcade. We did a cardboard challenge. This kind of morphs into, from our second goal, being curious about something, as well as self-regulation, which becomes our third goal. We were kind of like the zones of regulation that the previous school just spoke about. With the FDK model, trying to teach kids to self-regulate is a big part of their learning. We've also noticed that other students also require sometimes to learn how to self-regulate. And so part of our school success plan is to make sure that we provide the environment and the strategies for kids to self-regulate. And so the Kane's Arcade, one of those days, it's amazing. If you can come, it's a chaos day of building, but there is not one issue of students not being able to share, get along, use the space. It's quite impressive. Some more pictures here. The top left, how is your engine running? Again, this is for kids to self-regulate. We have a bunny in the school, it just hops about. The other three pictures show kids being able to choose their learning environment, whether it's sitting on a yoga ball, or they can have a lap desk, they can lie on the floor, they can stand at a desk, various positions. And the bottom right is just a specific self-regulation tool for a specific student who reflects every day on how they made out for that day. So now I get to brag a little bit. And again, this is just a snapshot of Toniana. Communication-wise, I showed you that we had 231 students. We have 273 members on our Facebook page. It says Twitter 58 followers. That's now up to 64. We have other Facebook pages, the Van Co team and Mrs. Taylor, as well as the kindergarten team. A lot of our communication is done through email or texting. pic collage is the picture on the right, where staff will take pictures of students, email it to parents. Kids are really keen on getting their pictures taken, and oftentimes they'll come to me and say, can you take a picture and email it to my mom? And so, yeah, it's a great tool. Parents love to receive those kinds of pictures as well. In terms of resources, we have an amazing monarch butterfly garden. The grade 2s of 3 years ago put that in, and we study it regularly to see, again, with Mrs. Coe as the lead on that, on which plants attract monarchs as much as possible. The middle picture you can see is a little kindergarten student in our sunflower garden. We have iPads, we have tremendous resources in that regard, but I would think that one of our strongest resources is our parents. That we have an amazing parent community. We have community members, over $2,000 supported this calendar that we sold for. We just put in a play structure, and before we'd even sold a calendar, we'd already made $2,000. So a phenomenal support. My hockey team's coached by parents. I have a curling team coached by parents. Whatever we need, parents are ready to say, let us help you. In terms of educational programs, we have an amazing musical theater opportunity, which I'll share in a second. You can see in this bottom picture is monarch butterflies. 5 of our classes studied monarchs, and some of those resources that staff have been working through in the last 5 years that I've been the principal there. So here's BCI. All the grade 1 to 3 students are involved in that. And then right now we're in the depths of The Little Mermaid. If you're not busy on May 16th or 17th, please come to BCI and watch it. That's for grades 3 to 6. If you've never had an opportunity to see a Tony Atta musical, they're spectacular. Mr. Kilgore is the musical director. I have a tremendous staff support, parent support, the costumes, everything. It's top notch. It's remarkable what he's capable of doing. In terms of wellness, Tony Atta is a native name, and we have nations. The students are divided into 8 groups, and each month they earn points to get the Golden Skate Award. It's a big deal. It's the top right picture. We do the Spirit Days. 4 days out of 5, the gym is available for every class. The 5th day is a QDB activity in their own classroom, so the top one is yoga is happening in that top picture. Various different activities, physical activities that we do. Here's curling in the bottom right. And to support the character always, I give the principal's chair. It gets wheeled down to a classroom every Wednesday, and the child gets to sit in the chair for the day, and they get the picture taken. And students are incredible. We have tremendous student involvement. Our Students' Council, Athletic Council, the We Act Club is raising money to purchase goats and things for students in other countries. Cycling Club, you name it. And there are no shortage of ideas. Kids come to me all the time saying, can we do this? Can we do this? Yeah, so it's a great place to be. So in summary, we're continuing to focus on math through hubs and our PLCs that we meet. I meet with teacher teams every week. Once a month, each team gets to review and see how we're doing in terms of our problem-solving focus. We're continuing our observations on how the environment engages student achievement, and the latest thing that we're looking at is it's called Triple E time. So we're engaging, exploring, and educating, and kids are going to they've highlighted passions that they want to look into, and we're going to set up the school in various stations, not age driven. If you have an interest in space and Mrs. Van Winkle's is the space room, then you can go to the space and explore, and we'll just see where that takes us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions?
Pearson. Right. Through the amazing trustee.
There you go.
You're attracting 45% of your student body from outside your catchment zone. I kind of have a 2-hit question here. Can you attribute that attraction to the fact your math scores are dropping? Are you attracting a certain type of student? And the second part of the question is, to what do you attribute that attraction? Like, you're obviously doing something to bring people from outside your catchment zone. And it's a good thing for your school, but it's sometimes not so good for the schools that are losing those students, because we end up competing against ourselves, so to speak.
Through you, Chair. Okay, so your first question, I think that all students are equally able to achieve. So I don't think that there's any less student who's being attracted to Toniata. I think that honestly, as a province, there is a concern with math scores being low, and we're working really hard to try and figure out where the deficits are. With regards to your second question, it's often what happens is students start at Toniata, and then for whatever reason, sometimes a family separates and they're leaving our catchment area. They stay. So I have 3 families right off the bat. I've got a couple kids come from Kingston every day, one from South Mountain, one from Smiths Falls, and because they started at Toniata, and the culture is such one that people don't want to leave, and so parents make whatever they can do to make sure that their children can stay in our school.
Okay, thank you.
May I just follow up on
You sure can.
I just wanted to follow up from the point of view of I commend the Toniata leadership and staff for their attention to both the culture of the school and student achievement. I can say from personal experience throughout my career, Toniata has had a long-standing reputation as a school of choice. And so I think that really what we need to celebrate, one of the things we need to celebrate tonight is that under Principal Morrison's leadership, that tradition has continued over time. So thank you.
Certainly, and someone taught there for 7 years, many, many years ago. I agree. Comments, questions? Got two good shots in, haven't I? Trustee Cartner.
No, I'll let him go first.
Oh. Trustee Cartner.
Well, it's not really a question. Well, maybe it is. Down the road, you can answer it with your members of your CAP and your team. You've got a recipe for success. It's been there long-standing. We would like to hear that all of our schools are schools of choice. So if you have anything that you can share with all the other principals in Upper Canada, please do so. And secondly, just a little plug for a committee that I chair of the board, a subcommittee or work group. You've already had one person in that school receive the Innovation Award, and what you said about that custodian sounds very innovative to me as well. So just a little hint that
Thank you.
perhaps you can proceed with that nomination. Thank you.
Trustee McDonald.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for you. The first one I wanted to speak to was the slide on the grade 3 to grade 6 cohort. It doesn't have a circle around it, but in the writing side of things, you have students that met the standard in grade 3 but did not meet it in grade 6. 20%. It's not. I know it's not a huge number, but the reason it stands out is there's a lot of zeros around the other side.
Right.
So,
Right.
what do you have any indication of what might have happened or caused that particular?
Actually, no, I can't speak specifically to that. I do know that we've seen in previous years, students who become disengaged for whatever reasons, sometimes those aren't in our capabilities, such as if a family's going through a more difficult time, it becomes challenging for kids to stay on track. Again, I think that it isn't a concern of ours in terms of, I need to go back and take a look and see, well, how far were they away? I know that at this table you're aware of the gradations of the test, and 2.8, 2.9. Those are the bigger. I think when you drill down and look at that, that would be the better indication. For me to speculate at this point would be ignorant of me to do that.
Okay. And the next question around your goals. Your goal 1, 2, and 3. In order to understand how successful you are in achieving your goal, other than EQAO results, what other measures do you have in place to determine the success of that?
Excellent. So in terms of, do you want me to speak to each one specifically?
Whatever you've got available.
Okay, well, I've got lots of stuff available, so. I'll go with the third one first, self-regulation. So at our school, when I arrived, I'm infamous for pink sheets. It's not a really great thing to be infamous for, unfortunately, but it's a really great tracking tool. So they're student incident sheets. So essentially what happens if there's an issue, then any of the staff can give a student an incident sheet. Basically it's a connection from school to home. And the idea being that parents need to know what's going on in order to help their child learn. And so I keep data on all these sheets. They're in my office. And with regards to self-regulation, so I don't know, you can't really see very well. This is the data from 2002. This is 2012, 2013, 2014. So if we take a look at the yard incidents, there was 140 in 2012. In 2013, there was 112. This year, I mean, it's only up to January, there's 27. So in terms of self-regulation, there to me is a perfect example. And it's the same with in class, 112, 94, 25. So kids are becoming better at self-regulating. To me, I feel that we're being successful at helping kids make those positive choices. Junior math survey, the junior student voice survey talks about, here are a couple things. So I enjoy reading. When kids get to choose, so in their school, this was grades 4, 5, and 6, we had 34% enjoy a lot, reading a lot in school, 40 at home, 49% at home, so much bigger. When they get to choose what they read, 64%. So again, looking at when we give them the choices of things. So in math, at school, 25%, at home, 16%. Kids are not liking to do math at home. But when they get to choose what they're figuring out, we're up to 46%. So I feel pretty confident with that as well. In terms of our math, when we're looking at in our PLCs, as I spoke to earlier, so the staff are set up in teams of 2, and each week I meet with a different team, and we look at how are we doing. So we take a snapshot of what are you looking at in terms of your instruction right now, and how are kids progressing. Of course, coupled in with that, we're doing the hubs. So we have 2 of my grade 5, 6 teachers are involved with hubs as well, to look more intensely at affecting the grade 6s.
Just to find a follow-up.
Sure.
So, and I appreciate your information. You have a lot of data other than the typical one that everybody would lead to, and it'd be difficult to measure some of those other goals with EQAO. So I don't want to go into each one of them, but specifically, before I go into that, you're trending well. It seems like you're achieving what you hope to achieve with your goals. On goal number 3, what does success look like? You sound like you have a lot of information, so whenever you achieved it, what's success?
I'm pretty confident that I think we're getting there. I believe that, and I would think the staff can say that there has been a substantial amount of growth there. And I know that we will be looking at our success plans more in depth as the coming months come along through Director Patterson's direction. And so that will be something that will certainly be whether or not do we need to continue this kind of focus. Of course, not saying that now we don't need to do those things. That will still remain as a part of our school.
A follow-up?
Sure can.
One of the things that we've been discussing at our principal meetings is the notion of the school success plan or the school improvement plan being a dynamic document, and that those goals, you might write your goals in June, or you may change them in November based on data that you've got. So we're really encouraging those success plans to be dynamic in their implementation, and we need to respond to the data so that if in fact the data is telling us that, you know, there needs to be some modification or some further tweaking, or perhaps we feel we've met that, you know, the school feels that the goal has been met midway through the year, by all means, choose another goal. So we're really, I think that's a little bit of a departure from what we've been doing in past years, but and it's something that we are just, quite frankly, embarking on now. But I think that, and it's very much in response to the data, as Principal Morrison has shared with us this evening.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Trustee Cram?
Thank you, through you, Chair. On your summary, the third bullet, can you expand a little bit more on what kind of innovation you're doing for your cross-grade inquiry and what it means?
Sure. So right now it's just a vision.
Okay.
Right, I've had students have indicated to their teachers where their interests are, and staff are going to get together and figure out if we can lump some of those categories together. So there's 8 classes that will be involved, and so we can organize learning spaces in our school to allow kids to explore that specific area. So there's dinosaurs is one, space is certainly one, the human body is one, building electronics. There's lots of opportunities for kids to explore, and so there's a lot of planning that has to go into that. As I said, it's just in the vision stages right now, but I'm looking forward to where it's going to take us, and of course it's just for a snapshot of the day. It's not as if, all right, have fun. Yeah, I'll let you know. You can come and visit.
Absolutely.
That would be lovely.
Any other comments or questions? Well, Suzanne, I want to thank you very much for the presentation. One thing I noticed is that you turned around a few times to acknowledge the team. And I think in doing so, you point out probably one of the strengths of your school, and that's the power of the team.
Absolutely.
And let me just introduce some of them. I know your cap is here, Marnie. Thank you so much for being here. Monique, you're not a stranger to us. You were here with the Innovation Award and doing amazing things with your kids, so it's so good to see you again. Joanna, you and I go back a long ways. I'm not going to say how long. And Sharon, you were the face of this board, front desk for a long time. Then you went down to BCI and you're at Toniata, and I've always seen you kind of as the face of service excellence. You're a class act. So good to have you here. So thank you so much, Bev. Thank you as well. It was great having both principals here present, so thank you so much.
Can I just add something,
Kemp.
Chair? Just to both of the principals who presented tonight, we encourage our principals to take these presentations that you've just shared with us, take them into your communities and your parent council. So I hope you will consider doing that or putting them on your Facebook, because they were indeed excellent. Thank you.
I shared mine with my parent council last Monday.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank
you so much. Okay, at this point, we are going to move into a private session. I need a motion to move into private session. Moved by Trustee Garrell, seconded by Trustee McDonald. Cast your votes, please. Thank you very much. We'll take about 2 minutes while we wait for the room to empty, and then we'll turn it over to Vice Chair. Okay, so we're back now. Most put us back in?
Because if it started to snow, I want to go too.
I'll call from the phone. Well, I'll call from the car.
Okay, so we're back into committee of the whole. Pardon me? No, we moved us back in. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is an item that comes from the accountability framework, our key indicator number 7, which is performance-based budgeting. So we're going to be getting a report from Superintendent Coombs on community use of schools, grounds, and facilities as it relates to the budget. And just a reminder that when we're dealing with these type of issues, right now we're dealing with a motion that was, or an item that is dealing specifically with budget. So I would appreciate if all discussion surrounded completely the topic that we're dealing with at this time. Having said that, I'm going to pass everything over to Superintendent Coombs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and with your indulgence, I'd like to welcome Judy Kaiser, who is our Community Use Outreach Coordinator, to the table. Welcome, Judy, and thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to talk about the budget report for community use of grounds and facilities. I do want to put this in a little bit of context. I do mention policy only in that I want to make sure that there is an understanding that we do have a new policy, and it was constructed last year with Superintendent Allen as well as Superintendent Hobbs as well as Judy. To the end that we want to provide the communities with the use of our facilities as much as possible while respecting certainly the fiscal restraints that we are under. So just to give you a little bit of context, we do encourage community use of our facilities, and we encourage community not-for-profit groups, of course especially those serving children, to use our facilities without any charge. The ministry does provide community use funds, which I will discuss shortly. And to best use those funds, we designate secondary schools for weekend use, community hubs, so that we can congregate our custodial costs, as well as our maintenance fees and upkeep fees, to make sure that we're using our money wisely. So the first fund is for a outreach coordinator, and that basically covers our staffing costs and all related costs around that staffing, including technology and supplies and marketing. This is Judy, who sits here, and I would like to point out Judy provides a service not just for the board but for our communities, because Judy's role is not just to say yes or no to a request to use our facilities, but to help groups organize themselves, perhaps seek not-for-profit status, to find ways to actively pursue and to minimize the costs of using our facilities. So it really is it really truly is an outreach coordinator, and Judy does a tremendous job in working with our partners across our big board to make sure that we do make effective use of our schools. The second funding pot comes from Priority Schools funding. This funding is specifically targeted to specific schools within our board. We did receive $34,000 this year. That's specifically for the old General Vanier site, now the T.R. Leger Cornwall site. Again, this is to be used to eliminate usage fees for not-for-profit groups in specifically identified locations, and again, this is the site in Cornwall. The biggest pot of money that we receive is facilities, and our facilities allocation last year, for this year, is around $460,000. That is applied by facilities for custodial overtime, facility maintenance, and the maintenance of our fields. So you may realize that we have to maintain our fields. We spend about $250,000 maintaining fields, and extra money goes to our community hubs. So if you can think of fields like the Tiss Field, like the Russell Field, around our communities, It does take extra seating, extra aeration, and that goes to pay for that. And money is allocated to the proportion in which it's used. So I have mentioned, for example, Russell is one of our hubs, so there's additional heating and hydro costs. North Grenville is one of our hubs. There's additional costs associated with that. It's hard to actually pinpoint exactly how much money, because it's hard to tell if a light burns out because it's been left on for an extra 3 hours on a Friday night. But we do tend to accrue more expenses when there's more community use. So I'll share our revenue from last year. Our total revenue, and this would be specifically from fees as well as custodial overtime billing. Last year our revenue was around $106,000. We expect it to be pretty much on target to be the same this year. So those are fees which we do take in, and it's to we charge groups for the use of our facilities, of our gyms, of our learning commons, as well as our fields, we only charge back about 3% of what it costs to pay for our custodial overtime. Just to put this in some kind of perspective, last year we had over 300,000 hours of use in our buildings over and above school day. So it's very significant. Our schools are being used at a very high rate. So the implications of this is thus. We spend everything that we take in to cover custodial overtime, to put more custodians in hub schools to cover that time. It's actually better and more, and Superintendent Hobbs was explaining to me that it's actually cheaper to put a full-time custodian in a community hub school than continually pay overtime for that school. So we do have extra custodial time in some of our hub schools. I've mentioned facilities and field maintenance, and as well as some of the hydro and heating expenses. Facilities does take into consideration the extra maintenance and repair costs at those hub schools. Last year was particularly heavy year for redoing some gym floors and some maintenance costs. Those vary from year to year, but those do tend to be heavier at those schools that are used more, which just stands to reason. I am told that our existing custodial staff is allocated. We don't do a custodial holdback, and because of that, if there is any additional community use sites opened up, it would mean an incremental expense for the board. I will take your questions, both myself and Judy.
Alistair.
We have an expenditure of about 506,000 and a revenue of 106,000. So there's a shortfall of 400,000. How is that made up?
I'm sorry, the expenditure, that actually is money that comes in from the ministry, so that is revenue.
Okay, so ministry.
Yeah.
Could I ask a supplemental? The bulk of the $458,578 is made up of custodial overtime, facility maintenance, and field maintenance. Do you have a breakdown of that, David, at all?
Yes, I'm sorry, I seem to be missing a slide here. I apologize for that. As far as a breakdown, of the 400, approximately just under $500,000 that goes to facilities. I can get you a breakdown. I can tell you from facilities. So, for example, about $80,000 of that goes to heating and hydro extra. About $40,000 of that goes to extra aeration and seeding of some of our fields. But I don't have all the breakdown with me tonight, but I can provide that. Well, I just see that being pushed my way. So. Excellent how that works. Thank you. So, for example, there's $335,000 charged just for cleaning supplies to that line. $65,000 for electricity, about $10,000 for water and sewage, close to $60,000 for repairs and maintenance, Also important to note, we pay a lot of the insurance expenses for those groups that can't afford it or don't have insurance. And last year that was just under $30,000. Thank you very much.
Trustee McPherson?
First off, a comment. Having been a user of a school facility, I want to thank Judy for the professionalism when we were launching our less than successful champion fundraiser in Perth. She answered a lot of questions and was amazing to deal with. My question. Certain things come in more expensive than others, and what I'm talking about is like a theater. I'm told that a single light bulb might be $60 if it blows out. Are we covering off those costs for the schools, like, or are they bearing that cost out of their school maintenance budgets? Every school has some sort of a lighting system. Some of them have projection systems. That stuff tends to be very expensive to replace and usually very high up.
Yeah. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Yes. And I'm thinking specifically of Perth Collegiate, which we do draw from this account to assist Perth in replacing the bulbs, because you're quite right. Number one, they're expensive, and number two, they can't be changed with a stepladder. So the expense is and I stand to be corrected. Correct me anytime, Judy, if I'm wandering off. But
Perth has also chosen, because we work with the high school, they've also elected to charge a bulb burn fee back to the organization.
That was the next part of my question, whether
Yes.
that was still allowed.
So that funding we collect on their behalf, and it goes directly back to the school.
Okay, perfect.
Trustee McDonald?
Thank you. Superintendent Coombs, I know it's not specifically in the presentation, but what's the bottom line? Is it it's a positive or a negative number from perspective of the revenue we receive in, based on the expenses that we have associated to complete this?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I would say that it's hard to ascertain, especially the facilities, because everything that is taken in from either the ministry funding or from rental fees is spent. And so I've asked that exact question, certainly of some of our facilities management as well as Superintendent Hobbs. Again, please jump in anytime. I do believe that we are, if I had to give you an estimate, I would say that we do spend more from our funding than we take in. Again, it's hard to break down exactly how much electricity for the extra time that we spend. But everything that we take in is used specifically for these purposes, and we spend it all.
Follow up. So, and I can appreciate that. I was expecting that we would be spending more. I don't think it's a revenue generating position for the board. You talked about having difficulty to determine the cost associated to certain things, and you mentioned fields and those kinds of things. The shortened lifespan of some of our facilities associated to that, and the 317,000 hours is yeah. Have we seen any indications or feedback from schools? I guess the light being one of them, but any other issues associated to that, this policy being implemented out in their communities?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have had feedback from schools, especially when there's not just a use of facilities, but also a use of equipment. We allow some of our youth leagues, for example, to use basketball and volleyballs. There is a replacement cost for some of those things, which sometimes go missing or get broken. Certainly the maintenance of just gym floors is actually a very expensive item. To have to resurface and re-wax a floor is a considerable expenditure. Fields, for example, just overseeding and aeration of fields is an extra $2,000, which we'll spend on Tiss Field in this spring. Again, that's over and above what normal field maintenance would cost. So yes, it's a balance in that we want to be open and accessible to our communities, especially groups and organizations that can't afford any other facility space in our communities, but we also have to be fiscally responsible with the money that we receive from the ministry and from the limited fees that we do take in.
Just as a final thing, Mr. Chair, I think from my perspective, looking at the budget, it's difficult as a trustee to say that we're spending more money than we receive on certain items in this day and age. However, I think this is a good initiative within our communities. I certainly would not want to see that expense line grow continuously to support some of those things. So this is good information. I think we're meeting the needs of our communities to the best of our ability on the funds that we do have, and I appreciate the work that you've done here. Well, quite honestly, I have to clarify that just to support Trustee McPherson. I haven't had the pleasure of having to book any time, but any of the individuals or groups that I've talked to, when they're looking to get space from us, have said that we have been very accommodating. We, being plural, in actual fact, it's singular by one individual that deals with the group. So thank you for your work and your professionalism and the work that we're doing to make sure that we can connect with those community partners. So thank you.
Trustee Cram and then Trustee McPherson.
Mr. Chair, as one of the new people on the block, I just want to make sure I understood something. The total revenue for communities to schools is roughly $564. Is that the way is that the way I read following John McAllister's question?
Yes, and I apologize, trustees, Mr. Chair. There's a slide missing, and this is my fault, not Lisa's, where I do tally it all up. So if I may quickly just, this would be the funding we receive. So 114, which goes to the outreach coordinator. 34 is the priority schools funding for the Cornwall site, and then 458,000 is for facilities allocation, and finally the revenue added to that would be 106,000. It comes to, I believe, just over $700,000. And again, I'm sorry, my slide is well. There's my slide. My slide is here. However, I apologize for it not being up there. So
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
Trustee Bill McPherson.
A great supporting cast.
First off, a comment. Like during one of my tours around my schools, the principal took me out into the playground, and they had a previous community use of the playground as a soccer field. However, when the school was built, they did not build it as a soccer field. It was built as a children's playground. And there is a huge difference between children playing on a field and an adult soccer league. And what the principal showed me was just amazing. Like, literally, the field was dug out around the goalposts. So that's one of the things we have to consider. Like, if you let a group in, you're going to have some major costs. I do have a question. Rural schools have a water testing program in place. What is the timeline on that test? Like, I realize that the custodian tests the water at 8:30 in the morning, and let's pretend it's school council coming in that night. Are they still allowed at 8:30 at night to access that water? Or has it got a finite time frame? Through the chair.
Thank you. Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the evening sessions are covered by the morning.
Okay.
I speak, of course, as not a facilities expert, but I think I'm fairly safe in that regard. Yes.
So technically, you could get weekday use of rural schools still if there was somebody that, say, local Boy Scout club, or will you still be pushing them towards the central sites?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, technically you could. The issue is making sure that we do have somebody on site that is, number one, a security who sets the alarm at the end of the day. Part of the reason, why we implemented this was because we had quite a bit of unrestricted use of our facilities over the course of years. And in fact, to the point where we had community members who had both the security code and the keys to the school who didn't work for the board. It was certainly both a liability and a risk, which has been looked after by this policy, and certainly through the hard work of Judy as well to ensure.
Yeah, well, I sat through the meetings and it was interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Slide missing and all. But Judy, I want to thank you so much. I mean, I've heard so many kind words spoken in your direction. It's a tough job that you have. People, I'm sure, are not always pleasant, but obviously you're responding in a nice way. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I appreciate it. Thank you, Superintendent Coombs. And thank you, trustees, for staying focused. I appreciate that. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a debenture bylaw, 14.35, OFA long-term financing of North Granville District High School. And I'm going to turn this over to Superintendent of Business, Nancy Barclay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report before you is about getting the board's approval on our application for permanent financing, and this is for the third phase of the North Grenville District High School construction. So at this point, we're into the outdoor work, landscaping, track, etc. So you've previously, the past 2 years, approved 2 debentures. The first one for about $16 million. The second one for about $500,000. This particular one is for $533,325. The documentation has been vetted through the lawyer that is always used for this, and it's attached to your board report. We are looking for approval on this so that we can get the paperwork back to the ministry and to the lawyer and have the funds flow to us on March 11th. And all of this borrowing is completely funded by the Ministry of Education because the spending is within the original funding allocation that we were granted.
Comments or questions?
I was going to move it.
Are there any comments, questions on this? Especially Bill McPherson?
Okay, this is gonna sound stupid, but what does OFA mean? Because to me, it's Ontario Federation of Agriculture, and I know they don't have any money.
Sorry about that. Through you, Chair. The Ontario Financing Authority.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Swan, you had a question?
No, I was just going to.
Okay, so there's no more. Okay, so the motion is put forward by, I'll read the motion here, that the Committee of the Whole recommend the Upper Canada District School Board approve the venture bylaw 14.35 to finance costs associated with the new North Granville District High School in the amount of $533,325. Moved by Trustee McDonald, seconded by Trustee Swan. Any other comments, questions? I ask you to cast your votes, please. Trustee Wendy McPherson, in favor?
Yep.
Thank you. That carries. Thank you very much. I need a motion to move back into regular board meeting, February 11th, 2015. Trustee Karkner, Trustee Bill McPherson. There was no private session January 28th, 2000. Oh, sorry. Assuming everybody's going to cast their vote on this one. My apologies. Well, on this one, it should be. Thank you very much. That carries. Trustee Wendy McPherson, I'm sure you're good. Okay. My apologies. There was no private session January 28th, 2015. Report from the Committee of the Whole Public Session January 28th, 2015. There were 4 presentations and 2 discussion items. They were shared January 28th, Committee of the Whole. And the following recommendations were brought forward to the board. Motion number 1, that the Upper Canada District School will create concussion policy 4001 as submitted to the Committee of the Whole January 28th, 2015. Moved by Trustee McDonald, Trustee McAllister. Any questions, comments? Cast your votes and I'll wait till you do that. Wendy's in, we're good. That carries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Trustee Armour. I know you're still online. Motion number 2, the Upper Canada District School Board combine Policy 300, which is communications, with Policy 310, media, as submitted to the Committee of the Whole January 20, 2015. Moved by Trustee Karkner, Trustee Cram. Any comments or discussions?
Pulling names out of his hat, isn't he?
No, he's doing that to me. Cast your votes, please.
It's coming, it's coming.
And that carries. Thank you very much. Motion number 3, that the Upper Canada District School Board retire Policy 300. Moved by 310, sorry, Policy 310, media. Upper Canada District School Board retire Policy 310, media. Moved by Trustee Cram, seconded by Trustee Garrow. Comments, discussions? Thank you very much. Cast your votes. And that carries. Motion number 4, that the Upper Canada District School Board document Policy 301, social media, with a review date of January 20th, 2015. Moved by Trustee Karkner.
Person.
Pardon me? Trustee Bill McPherson, thank you. Comments, questions? Cast your votes, please. And that. So we had just, oh, you're good. That carries. Thank you very much. And the final motion is the Upper Canada District School Board update Policy 432, which is video security surveillance of property, with revisions as submitted to Committee of Whole January 14th, 2015. Moved by?
That's not on here.
Not on there.
We're just checking to see if you read.
Well, I read what's in front of me here.
We did that one already.
Ignore that one.
Good thing we were watching,
Okay, let me move on to the next item. Thank you very much. We don't need to vote on anything else. I was wondering why I said 4 and there was a 5th one there, but I didn't want to question Lisa because that's the way it is.
She's always right.
Took me only 3 years to figure that one out, but I got it. Okay, the next item is report of the Accountability Framework Committee, and what I want to do is just bring you up to date on what we discussed at the last Accountability Framework Committee, and there were only 2 items on the agenda. The first was the Ipsos Reid staff survey, and the second was the Net Promoter. Both of these will be coming to board. Right now, we have them, we're working with them at the Accountability Framework Committee. Just to give you just some information, the staff, the Ipsos Reid staff survey, out of 5,040 possible people that could participate, we had 1,710, so about 38% of our staff. Now, as I'm not going to be giving you a lot of numbers, but as we hear these numbers and as we look at these percentages on the surveys and so on, we have to ask ourselves the question, what does that mean? Is that good? Is it not good? We don't know. So we have to dig a little deeper. What Ipsos Reid is telling us is 38% is actually fairly good. And I can look at Phil, and that's really not a bad percent. To any of the staff members that were involved in this and are listening to this particular board meeting. I want to personally thank each and every one of you that did give us the answers that did complete the survey. We appreciate your honesty, and it's very clear to us that the honesty came out in the survey. So really the point of Ipsos Reid was for us to, was designed to support our strategic goals and looking at how they can help us identify some key areas of success and focus on some future initiatives. It certainly, as we stated from the very beginning, it was not a survey that we were going to use as a quick fix. We needed it as baseline information so we can move forward. There was a lot of information that we as a committee and we as a board, when we look at it, need to sort our way through to get a clear understanding of what those numbers really meant. Because if we take them on their face value, we don't know if it was good or bad in some areas. You know, I mean, I'm just going to pick a number off the air. If we said that, you know, 45% of our staff contacted board office for help, is that good or is that bad? We don't know. And that number's not an exact number, but that's just an example of what we're working our way through. The second thing that we discussed was the Net Promoter Score. Over the last 3 years we've done that. We've had in the range of 550, 560 people being surveyed. This year we had 544 people surveyed, ranging between the ages of 18 and 65 years of age. Majority were between the ages of 35 and 65. And that's another one of those things where we're drilling down because there was really no change in certain areas. But what's becoming obvious to us is when we get feedback. I mean, we have one question that we ask in here. It's really quite simple, is how likely is it that you would recommend the Upper Canada District School Board to family and friends? And then they ask some questions as to why. When we get a general answer, it doesn't tell us anything unless we can drill down deeper to find out what's behind that. For example, if they say, well, class sizes are too large, well, what does that really mean? What do they mean by that particular statement? And we also found out that in this, I mean, they do a random sample when they do the survey, and this time it seemed to be a lot more people were surveyed that don't have kids in the system or have had kids that are no longer in the system. And the discussion that we had in the committee, and I think that we all pretty much agree that perhaps the Net Promoter Score is not something we need to do every year. Maybe we need to give a little time on some of these things and time to work our way through these things. So that's where we're at right now. We will be bringing these to board. We are waiting right now with Ipsos Reid that we've got kind of a PowerPoint draft that was given to us, but we're waiting for a written detailed report. And that will be able to give us more information, more meat to actually work with. Net Promoter is another one where when we drill down a little deeper on that, then both Ipsos Reid and Net Promoter will present to the board. So I just want you to know that we're there. And again, to anyone, and I was in a school just this week, and one of the teachers asked me if this survey had been completed, and what are we doing with it? And I said, well, it is complete. We are starting to look at it. But what that made very clear to me, and I had mentioned this to the accountability framework, it's important that I, as the chair of the board, through the director, get a message out to thank those people and let them know where we are in terms of seeing the report and that we're moving forward with it. Because there's nothing worse than asking someone to do a survey that sometimes takes up to 30 minutes, and then you say, well, what happened? So that's important. So through you, Director, I'm going to get something into the system.
Great.
So that's my report. Any questions?
This is something that I had gotten a phone call on, was that report, and it was from a retired couple in a nursing home that had gotten the call.
Oh, it's with the Net Promoter?
Yeah, and they had asked the questions or what have you, and they felt it was just a total waste of time that they were the ones that were, and it should have sort of like, okay, fine, asked in the preliminary questions, and then moved on to somebody who it was more relevant to. And perhaps that'll be a parameter that maybe you might do, because I think it's a valuable survey to know what people are, what their perception of us is. However, and quite honestly, I think it's kind of my job, our trustee job, to tell us how we're doing.
Yep.
But I think the survey is useful, but I think the parameters need to be sort of tightened down for the folks who are doing it, that maybe some preliminary questions need to be asked first before we can move to the next. That would be more relevant to.
I certainly agree. I think all of us were surprised at now, sometimes if they do these during the daytime, the odds are pretty good. The only ones that are getting are either retired or senior people, which is unfortunate. But I take that as a very valid point, so.
We pay a lot of money for these things. We should be getting our money's worth. It's kind of
I agree
the opinion
completely.
of them and myself.
I agree. Trustee McPherson, Bill McPherson.
Maybe what we need to do is ask one or two qualifying questions right off the bat. I know lots of times I'll get a survey about grain production. Well, I don't grow grain on my farm anymore. Well, as soon as they find that out, they're gone. They want to talk about beef production. Yeah, I'm your boy. Same thing with this. There's no sense surveying somebody's opinion on a school system where their great-grandchildren have already graduated, for instance. Or somebody that, I'm sorry, I think it's counterproductive to survey somebody that's using the services of a coterminous board. The ones we need to be talking to are the people that are using our system now, and whether or not they would recommend that system to a friend.
I think there's some valid points about determining the scope. To put it in perspective, previously we've looked at the company Performalogics. When we engaged with them in the past, there's a guarantee of, I think, 500 respondents. I'm pulling that number out, but in any event, so they guarantee that they will have a certain number of respondents. So they keep calling until they get people. We've never said you can't call these people or you don't want to engage with those people. And the purpose behind the Net Promoter Score is to determine simply that, is how is the community itself looking at the board. And perhaps an individual living in a nursing home may not have a lot of perspective on it, but they still have an opportunity to convey an opinion and may sway others that are in that facility that work there, or visitors, or whatever the case might be. If we narrow the focus to the point where we're only talking to individuals that are in our system, parents that we have, totally different survey. It's not Net Promoter Score at that point, it's a satisfaction type survey. How well are we meeting your needs? And that's a different thing that we could talk about, discuss at a future point of how we do it. I think we can look at how we frame the Net Promoter Score in the future, but I think it's important for us to use the data that we do have. Accountability Framework is reviewing it, and work with administration to find some strategies around maybe not everything that's included in that Promoter Score, but key points that might step out at us and have already been aligned potentially with our current work and strategies that we're deploying out in our system. So I think the Net Promoter Score is an important piece. I think it needs to stay as a global review of individuals in our broader jurisdiction, because we want to know what others may have to say about us, because the work that happens in our school is good, significant, parents understand it, they're engaged, but what happens at the local rink and the soccer field and the grocery store are those conversations that we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to influence as well, and that's how we get the feedback through the Net Promoter Score.
Trustee Cram and then Trustee McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to lose track of grandparents in this particular issue. We have a significant number of grandparents that babysit their grandkids and would have an opinion as to what the school board is like.
Trustee Wendy McPherson.
I am not saying that we shouldn't have a certain amount of people in retirement homes who have what their perspective is. All I'm saying is that maybe we need to be looking at how many we should be asking, or have them with a criteria of 10% could be from aged or what have you. But I'm just, it didn't, the person who called me had the receiving that call, he felt that the money was wasted and it put us in a bad light. and then he told his friends and so on and so forth. So it was kind of, it could work in the reverse is maybe what I'm saying.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to standing item report of the Ontario Public School Boards Association. Director David McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if you want to get a motion now to extend the meeting or not.
Point of order.
Well, yeah, very quickly, I just bring you up to speed that we do have a Board of Directors meeting on the 20th and 21st, but a couple of key points I wanted to touch upon. Public Education Symposium was about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now. In my view, having attended a number of those over my time as a trustee, it's one of the better ones that I've attended by Ontario Public School Board. Everything was in a plenary session. There weren't a lot of breakouts. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. However, the sessions were good. I enjoyed the speakers. I think it was a new piece to it this year that I knew I'd forget his name. Doug Creeley, I think his name is. Doug Keeley, sorry. An individual who kind of brought everything together. He after the keynote speakers and the presentations were completed, he was able to get up and talk to those points of those speakers. And bring a little bit more thought into to some of the things that they were doing. I mean, some of the things that I enjoyed him. Probably one of the best pieces of the conference, quite honestly. But we did have some good speakers. Jeff Melanson, president of the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, Amanda Lang, Peter Mansbridge. Very good speakers. Provided a good perspective on innovation, I guess, leadership. And some thought-provoking comments from all those individuals. It's a good opportunity to meet and talk to other trustees across the province, and you certainly can see. Well, I had an opportunity to see some new faces as a result of the election, and you can see what areas of the province are dealing with similar issues, or issues that might be unique to them, but may come upon us at some point. Part of that Public Education Symposium is an opportunity to meet as a region. So on Saturday mornings we meet as a region and have an opportunity to see what happens at those types of meetings, talk about specifics in our area, in our board, and provide some insight. So again, another opportunity to just meet some colleagues and have some further discussion. One of the things that I did want to mention, I can find it here, is that OPSPA, we did present some awards, but we're also looking to present further awards, and there is a call for nominations for awards. The deadline for nominations is April 10th at 5 o'clock, and I'll send this out to the group as well. There are a number of different awards. Jack McDonald Award is Award of Merit, honors elementary and secondary school students. Attending an Ontario Public School has earned a sound academic record and shown outstanding service and leadership in his or her community. So it's something that we as a board can nominate our individual students. Perhaps you can, student trustee, give us some insight into that as well. Fred Bartlett Memorial Award is presented annually to an active or retired member of the teaching profession. So again, we're recognizing our staff and our boards. Successful candidates selected on the basis of outstanding contribution to education throughout Ontario, such as constructive participation in education affairs over a number of years, or for dedication to some recent or specific project that has had a provincial impact. And then we also have the Dr. Harry Paikin Award of Merit is awarded to an active or retired public school trustee for outstanding service. So those are awards that we can certainly nominate for. The other one is an Achievement Award or Award of Excellence. It's created by OPSPA to recognize the outstanding contribution of non-teaching staff, parents, volunteers, community partners involved in education, and member boards. The award provides an opportunity to raise awareness and promote the importance of celebrating excellence and the necessity of recognizing the work of all members of the education community. So covering all grounds as it relates to the stakeholders of education, our students, our staff, our volunteers, and us as trustees. There is an award called the Bernadette Yackman Memorial Award. It's specifically geared towards trustees in the northern area. one last thing that I did want to share, and I think you've all seen it, but during the election, OPSPA was partnered and provided some videos out to talk about what school trustees do. We've also completed a video now called Kids Come First. It's narrated by Michael Baird, our president of OPSPA, and his counterpart within the French Public Board. It's a great video. It talks about what the trustee does in your community and the involvement in a particular school. I'll share it with you, make sure that you have it, and if you have an opportunity to either put it on your Facebook or your Twitter feeds, lets the community have an understanding of what we're actually doing in the province and the impact that we're making for public education. This leads specifically to the work of OPSPA to raise the awareness of public education in Ontario. So we're doing great work at OPSPA, and I'm proud of the contribution that we're making to Ontario, and I'm happy to be representing Upper Canada on that particular board. So next board meeting, I'll provide you some updates as a result of our board of directors meeting, but that's all I have for you at this point.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Good.
Through you, Chair. No, it's just that I had two trustees from Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education that attended the PEDS for the first time, and they were just overwhelmed by it, the professionalism, the speakers, and everything. And we just want to continue that practice. At our Native Trustees Council meeting, we had over 118 people show up, and it was again something amazing because we have new Native trustees, but we also found out that, as I mentioned before, there's 6 Catholic school Native trustees that want to come on board, and then also we found out that there's 3 Native French public school trustees that are coming on board. So it's growing, and I find it really inspiring too to see how far we've come in the last 6 years on this. So thank you all.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Director. Catch you off guard there?
This afternoon, I did a little tally of the number of school visits that I've had since beginning in my role as director, and I'm pleased to tell you that I have made 45 school visits, all of our secondary schools and many of our elementary schools, and I continue to plug away on the rest of them. And I just wanted to acknowledge, first and foremost, the principals and the staff in the schools. I have seen a very sincere effort on the part of school staff to lead the improvement of student learning throughout the district. And it comes with a renewed energy and vigor, and I think that people are really, if you will, they may be on different points of the journey, but they're all taking the same path, and it's very heartening. And they haven't done it alone. They've done it with some very exemplary leadership on the part of the senior team and folks in the program and the special education department. So I want to acknowledge the senior leadership of the board as well, because there has been some very hard work, but the right work going on in the last number of months, and I think it will bode well for our students and for their opportunities for achievement. So I just really wanted to extend congratulations and a thank you to the senior team, various folks in our program and spec ed department, of course, and last but certainly not least, our school staff. So kudos to all of those folks. Thank you.
Well, Jeremy, wherever you are, Susan is Toronto, Dave Coombs, Nancy, Tim, Val, Phil. Thank you so much. We're very proud of you people. We're very proud of what you do for us. Thank you. You know, we were up in OPSPA, and part of the OPSPA really was different boards getting up talking about how they're dealing with governance and talking about how great they were, I guess, at times. And you know, I sat back and I watched, and I thought to myself, you know, we're not a board of trustees to get up and stand up and say much. We speak our piece. We've got lots of people on Oxford that make a huge difference. But I think the thing that I'm proudest of is, as a board of trustees, when you pay attention to the news and you watch what's happening in some other boards, we've managed to stay focused on what our role is, and that's the role of governance. And we have been very careful not to drift over into the operational side, because I have so much faith, as you do, in our senior team and our staff to do that. And it's so important that we stay there on our side, because I think we can be very effective. So when I listen to these other boards, I think, wow, you know, you haven't seen us, because we really have worked hard to stay focused where we belong. And when I look around the table, and where Jeremy was up in, Jeremy Armour was up in Toronto, and I look at Wendy and I look at Dawn, I'm really impressed with how quickly you've become part of the team. I know you're doing incredibly good work in your areas, and you know you can turn to any one of us for help if you ever need it. But you as well have stayed in the governance side of things, and I'm really proud of you for doing that. So I think we really are heading in the proper direction, and we're just going to get better and better, and I appreciate everything that everyone's doing. So having said that, I'll get a motion for adjournment. And I think, Wendy, you're going to be the new girl on that one. And seconded by Bill. So the McPherson. Bill.
This is 3 in a row.
3 in a row. Look at that. There we go. And cast your votes, please. And I see everyone's in favor. And I understand the snow is coming down, so be careful out there, please. Thank you so much.